Okay, we are live.
Right.
Let's start the show off properly now that we're here. Sorry about that. And our intro was also wrong. When it rains, it pours. That's okay. We have been fighting technical issues, guys, all morning. That's why we delayed the stream. I was trying to get some things together, and my computer was just running egregiously slow. Good news, though, Brian, is I can finally hear.
All right.
I can hear you loud and clear. I can't hear myself very well because these are noise canceling headphones. I have the wrong headphones today, but other than that, we're good to go. Um,
I'm glad you can hear me loud and clear because I'm planning on coming in hot here to the show. So first time coming on. I'm excited.
yeah, I'm glad to have you back. It's been a while since we've been on a podcast together, and I'm just going to trust that everybody can hear me better than I can hear myself. We're a few minutes late, so let's go ahead and hop in. We got a few things to do with the show to get ready. It's going to be a little bit more chaotic. We got the layout looking better, Brian, but some of the back end stuff because of the computer, it's just going to be a little wonky compared to the last couple of weeks. But hopefully everybody will stick with us. Um, so the first thing that we've got though is we did have a new trailer. Lots of trailers every week. It seems like we're going to be probably talking about a lot of trailers, and probably the most um, watched and probably the most interesting trailer to everybody is the new trailer for the HBO Harry Potter series, which of course is it's been talked about a lot. A lot of people think maybe it shouldn't happen. We'll get into our thoughts on it, but first, Brian, I'm going to hop over and we're going to look at a couple of screen grabs from the trailer. Um, yeah, so this is the new Harry Potter. I don't have his name in front of me, but he looks great. The first part of the trailer has him uh, getting a haircut from Aunt Petunia, which is what those bangs are all about. I think she's hiding his scar there. And then we have let's get this going. We get our first look
So
at
Harry Potter actor is Dominic McLaughlin.
thank you, thank you for that.
That's the young
Um,
man's name.
Great co-host already, pitching in on that. Um, if you could
Yeah,
pull
no
up
worries.
the other young cast, I think I have the like.
Yeah. Alistair Stout is playing Ron Weasley, and Arabella Stanton is the new Hermione Granger.
Awesome. And so we did get our first look at Nick Frost. I think that's his name, correct? As Hagrid,
Mm-hmm.
from the, obviously most well known from the Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright movies. I think he looks pretty good as Hagrid there. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we get the iconic shot of Harry uh, trying to enter platform 9 3/4 for the first time. Here's a shot. This is what maybe my favorite shot from the trailer. Just Harry looking out this train window at the Weasley family, and then our first look at Professor McGonagall. It appears to be, and I really like this shot too, just of the three, the actual crew. Um, and this is obviously the new Malfoy, and it looks like Crabbe and Goyle are there behind him, and another Slytherin uh, team member. And there's Hermione in a standalone shot, and there is John Lithgow as Dumbledore. So that is some of the main images that stood out to me. Brian, are you excited about the HBO Harry Potter series? And whether you are or not, what stood out to you about the trailer?
Yeah. Well, I won't be watching just for personal reasons of J.K. Rowling's stuff and the baggage. So I'm not interested in watching myself. I think from a and it'll be interesting to see if that affects the series at all if it sticks because the Harry Potter fan base is really strong. They released a video game recently that did really well, and so I don't think that's really stuck in terms of limiting its audience, but it could. And I just keep hearing more about it, and it seems like her opinions and advocacy keep getting worse. But other than that, I mean, this is interesting to me, mostly for reasons that weren't showcased in the trailer. So I think the benefits you get here versus, you've already got a movie series that's really well loved and people still rewatch heavily. Um, but doing it as a series allows you a little bit more space to explore all of this stuff that happens in the books. Each episode could be a chapter, and you can really focus in on stuff. So that's interesting to me. And then I don't know if you've revisited those movies recently, Jacob, but the special effects are like very like early 2000s. Like you can tell how far that stuff has come. This is getting a huge budget. I think the special effects will look really good. None of that was really showcased in the trailer, so that was surprising to me that they wouldn't want to showcase. And like it does look very much like the original, just with like different people in it, which is um, a little off-putting just to have like different. I'm sure they'll be fine, but they just like look exactly like the original cast because that's sort of the vision for what these characters are, just different people. So it's a little weird from the trailer, but I think it could be interesting in a different take. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think, what's the point of going back through this? We've had a an 8 film series adapting the 7 books. I do think I'm a little bit excited in terms of seeing, especially in the later seasons. Like I think Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone, if you're in Britain, um, did a pretty good job because that's a shorter book, so that movie got to incorporate a lot more from the original book. But as the books got longer and as they progressed, they got more adult, they got longer. So, the movies had a harder time condensing all of that plot into a 2 hour film. So I'm interested to see what the later seasons especially can do. I will say I think John Lithgow is a great choice for Dumbledore. I think he looks pretty good in that little bit of a snippet of a trailer that we saw. Um, I think, Richard Harris. I really loved Richard Harris's iteration. It was very like gentle and whimsical, but people questioned, could he have pulled off what was needed later in the series. And then you have Michael Gambon, who came in and did a good job with that. Of course, he gets a little bit of razzing for his delivery of that line, especially in Goblet of Fire. Uh, yeah, Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Uh, which in the book he said calmly. So, but I think Lithgow can hit both ends of that range. Lithgow can be very loud and assertive, but he can also be a little bit quieter and gentler. So I'm interested to see how he plays it. Um, I'm interested to see the new takes on the characters. I mean, they are very similar, but you know, it's going to be a little different. And I don't mind seeing new people take on the same characters in a similar fashion. It's going to be about what the show can provide us that's new. And I have to say, like you said, Brian, the production design from the trailer looks really good. And I'm sure the special effects are going to be on par with that. HBO is pouring a ton of money into this show. Um, so yeah, I don't think the trailer showed us that much. The only comparison I was making where I was like, I'm not feeling that character the same way I was in the original movies was Aunt Petunia. She just didn't quite come off to me the same. She didn't quite have the vibes as well. Everyone else, we didn't see a lot. We saw a little. I mean, most we didn't even see. Speaking of Dumbledore, I know Snape. Obviously, people were talking about Snape. We're not going to get into it. Um, but McGonagall, they just showed little clips, so it's hard to say much. But the spirit seemed there, and I thought the interactions between the three main cast, which is honestly going to be the real bulk of where this series lives or dies, looked good from the start. Um, I think they all look really good for the characters, and I think they seem to have the right energies, and I'm excited to see like more of what they can do. Um, yeah, awesome. Let's move ahead. By the way, we have the headline down here is what's having the technical issues, so just kind of ignore that. It says Moana, but we're moving on now to Moana. The live action trailer just dropped for that, obviously. Um, we're gonna show you some screenshots from that as well, but I certainly have my thoughts. Um, here's a good shot of Moana looking at the wave. Basically the same shot that's in the animated film. Um, we get our first look as Dwayne the Rock Johnson as Maui, which I think is going to take up a lot of the conversation around this trailer. Um, I didn't pull a shot of Hey Hey, but that's also interesting to talk about. Here's a good shot of the new Moana actress by herself. Obviously, she's going to fill the shoes of Ali'i Carvalho. I don't know how to pronounce that name perfectly. This was actually my favorite shot, um, not only just because of the way it's set, but the father actor just has a level of depth that some of the rest of the trailer didn't have to me, just in his face. Um, he looks more natural to me. And here's Maui as a shark, and that's one of the bigger questions is how they're going to take some of the more fantastical elements into live action. And I mean, doesn't look bad. I don't. It loses some of the whimsy of the original animated. What were you thinking watching this trailer, Brian? Because I was thinking it doesn't look bad. It looks exactly like the animated movie, but with people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. It's the How to Train Your Dragon playbook, basically, which Disney hasn't done really yet. They've been doing, I mean, Lilo and Stitch, I guess, is like a 25-year from the original to the remake, but that's a generational, So you've got parents who are taking their kids to the movie that they remember, and the kids get to experience it in a new way. It hasn't been a generation since Moana released, so you're banking on the same fan base returning. And that's very similar to what happened with How to Train Your Dragon. And I think this looks very similar in that it's going to be almost shot for shot what we saw in the animated movie. There's not going to be a whole lot of changes or originality. It's just translating that to live action. And I'm pretty cynical about that kind of stuff. Is just the only reason this is going to get made is because they know there's a fan base to it and people will show up to it. And people showed up to How to Train Your Dragon. So I think it's going to work. I think they'll get a lot of people out to see it, but I don't think ultimately it's like all that good for movies to just be recycling the same stuff in a slightly different way or just translating animated to live action. There's nothing new or innovative about this. It's just being made to make money, basically. Which, like, they're a business, so I don't blame them for doing that. But as a fan of the art form, it's sort of frustrating that this is where we're going now. And I think as a long-term strategy, like you got to be making new stuff that people want to see, and Disney's doing some of that, but their biggest performers seem to be this more like franchise or recycle into live action stuff, which can get frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I had a have an interesting kind of thing with the How to Train Your Dragon last year. It's like I enjoyed the original movie, so then I went into live action How to Train Your Dragon, and it's basically the original movie, so I enjoyed it again. But then you're like,
Mm.
the further you get away from it as the live action, you're like, it, how do I even classify it? It's like I enjoyed the movie because I enjoyed like the story, but I mean, other than that, it's not really anything to go on, anything to remember. So, um, it's a weird deal. Um, the uh, the other thing I think with this Brian that's interesting is it's a different. when Disney was doing The Lion King, which was a soulless abomination ultimately,
Yeah,
um, it was still kind of an interesting experiment, I think. Like 25 years later, remaking a masterpiece of animation, basically a
yeah,
new animated movie, but just saying, what if we could make it look like real animals? And the
yeah.
answer to that experiment was kind of that it sucked. Um,
But even before that, they did the Jungle Book, and I actually thought that was pretty interesting and successful. Of like a translation, that's a lot older movie. They changed quite a bit, which they needed to in some instances, to make it not quite as racist as the original was. But that was more interesting. You have a legitimate director, and Jon Favreau taking it on, and Mufasa had a legitimate director in Barry Jenkins as well. So you've got some interesting people doing things, but it seems like they're sort of getting sucked into the franchise machine and maybe not as able to make as innovative choices as they otherwise would in their more original films. So yeah,
yeah, so that's what, here it's like Moana came out, what, six, like Moana 2 came out last year. Moana came out 6 years ago, I think, 2019,
it was
2018.
like 10 years ago. Yeah, it was 2016. So it has been a little while. That was longer than I thought it had been.
I don't know how long it has to be for it to not feel, but it feels still close enough where it feels like
Yeah.
why remake the same movie in live action, especially if it's just going to be so shot for shot. Um,
To me,
what do you think
it's,
about
yeah.
how?
Do you have a reason to be remaking it other than just we know people like this and we can make money off of it? And people say, I mean, part of it is frustration with the audiences of wanting the exact same thing and they don't want anything to be changed, and that's the same for novel adaptations as well. You see it in Harry Potter of like, we want this to be exactly like word for word what was done in the books, and if it's not, then it's not good. So it just turns into like a pattern recognition game instead of thinking about like what is different and what can we do differently in the mediums of animation and live action to make this the best thing that it can be independently of people, because you establish new fan bases by doing new and original things, and that can grow your brand and then you can profit off it in a variety of ways. But if you're just recycling, it's going to be diminishing returns eventually, and I think that's sort of the path that Disney's headed down.
Right, yeah, I agree. What was your thoughts on The Rock as a live action Maui?
The hair, oh my goodness. So the first shot of the hair when he watched is when the wig looks the worst. And so it made me sort of miss being on social media more heavily than I am, because I'm sure there was tons of people dunking on it and posting memes and stuff, and that would have been a fun thing to be a part of. But yeah, I thought it did not make a good first impression, and they might need to do a like Sonic style cleanup in post to make the wig look better.
That would be funny. That would be great if they do that. Also, though, I don't think, and we'll see about the actress who's taking over the role of Moana, which obviously is just kind of it's just a human character. Um, but Maui is so separate in the fact that he's this demigod who he's very animated in a lot of ways, and it just didn't
Mm-hmm.
quite translate with The Rock. Like it's kind of there, but it's just not full. It doesn't fully feel right to me. Um, the other thing to note from the trailer was Hey and Pua, the animal companions, they just look they're close to. I mean, you can't make them look real, but
Mm-hmm.
Hey especially looks like a strange cartoon version of a live action thing, and it's kind of I don't know, it's a little bit uncanny to me, you know.
Yeah,
But I don't
yeah,
know
I
the
agree.
solution because I don't think you can do hey hey with just a random chicken. I think it has to look cartoony. I just don't know if there's I don't know if there's middle ground to be reached in these live action remakes on that. Um,
Yeah, that's the dilemma. Is you're basing it on an animated movie that people love, and so you basically just need to replicate the animation for things that don't translate well, unless you're going to make significant changes, which Disney isn't really willing to do. You know, so if they want to make it like a real chicken and change a lot of the comic relief around it, you could do that. It might be interesting. I'd be more interested in that approach, but it's not something that they're really wanting to do. So now the live action stuff is just like half animation, half live action, and yeah, you just get to see like a real actor playing Moana and Maui and stuff. So
Maybe they could have achieved it with a puppet because we just saw another movie
ooh,
that did really well with a puppet. Uh,
I'd be into that. Yeah.
uh, Segueing into our next topic, which is our Ryan Gosling segment. Um, and I've got a story pulled up that I would normally scroll through it on this, but it's not set up for that today because of our technical difficulties. So I'm just gonna read a little bit of the details. Project Hail Mary looks like it's going to be number one at the box office a second straight weekend in a row this weekend. In the $40 million to $50 million range this weekend after an $80.5 million debut um, last weekend, which is, I think, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, if you've seen otherwise. I think that's the highest for a non-IP or like non-movie IP franchise, um, maybe ever or at least in a long time. It's
I think since Oppenheimer, it was compared. It might be slightly above Oppenheimer, but it's definitely in that range.
so
That'd
obviously
be
a huge blockbuster success. Everybody, it's really broken into the mainstream. Brian, did you get to see Project Hail Mary yet?
I am going tomorrow. I'm excited. I think it's really exciting to have an original movie that's doing big box office, and something excited about to get excited about early in the year because we didn't have that, last year until Sinners hit in April, I believe. So nice to get something in the first quarter here for us original film fans.
Yeah, amaze, amaze, amaze. Um, so yeah, I saw it about a week ago. I've actually seen it twice now. Went back with my dad. I really enjoy it. It's really fun. It's a really fun sci-fi romp trip. It's not it's got some depth to it. It's not as deep as it's not quite deep enough thematically for me to like go full 5 stars on it, but it is it's quite a nice movie, quite a fun time at the theater. Rocky is one of the best characters of the year so far, and may stay that way all year long. So it's a great movie. But yeah, I mean, Ryan Gosling um, is showing that he could actually have the star power um, to lead that movie. I think Ryan Gosling is a huge draw for people, um, and it's finally showed up at the right project. And yeah, so if you don't know, Project Hail Mary is about Ryan Gosling's character is a scientist who is trying to figure out why all the stars are dying, uh, except for one, and that star is Ryan Gosling because he is hot, hot, hot. Uh, he it's like every time we turned around this week, he was in casting news. First of all, he's apparently in talks with Marvel to be the new Ghost Rider, which is quite interesting. And then he is not just in talks, but apparently officially confirmed to be the star of the next Daniels film, which set a production date for this summer. It's supposed to be a big sci-fi action comedy, which sounds just like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Um, that's very low on details, but Ryan Gosling attached to that project and maybe the new Ghost Rider. Uh, Which one of those are you more excited to see, Brian? And what do you think about Ryan Gosling as Ghost Rider?
Yeah, Ryan Gosling as Ghost Rider. I've never seen any of those films, and I'm not super familiar about the comics. It seems like a maybe a slightly more interesting character than the standard Marvel fare to me. But I'm certainly less interested in that, particularly because he's already got sort of a big franchise thing set for next year with Starfighter. He's going to be in the new Star Wars movie, which just got the biggest gift from this movie doing well. People are going to be really pumped for that now because it's sci-fi, space-based sci-fi starring, and you just got a real big boost to your movie star for that one. So I think that one I'm mildly excited for. We'll see what happens with that. And then the Daniels movie I think is really savvy as well because Ryan Gosling has really strong comedic chops, but comedy movies have been sort of dicey recently. The biggest success being the one Gosling was in, Barbie. Earlier this year, and that has other franchise reasons. So doing a straight comedy is just probably not in the cards. And he tried, an action comedy a couple of years ago with The Fall Guy that didn't do as well as people were hoping. So the Daniels have this built-in fan base. They did good box office for Everything Everywhere All at Once. It won Best Picture. So I think it's a really savvy move on his part to say, okay, people are interested in seeing me in a sci-fi setting, in a comedy setting. Let me work with people who have proven that they're very good at both of those things and are going to get a decent budget and make a good movie. So I think it's a great fit. I'm excited for whatever they come up with there, but it seems like sort of a match made in heaven to me.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. It'll be interesting to see Ryan Gosling kind of flex his chops outside of the blockbuster space. Um, I'm really excited to see what he can bring to that role. As far as Ghost Rider, um, I'm interested. I also don't have a big connection to Ghost Rider. It does seem like the character is supposed to be a little bit more tormented, and but I guess
Mm-hmm.
everyone in the MCU is quippy, so maybe it'll fit Ryan Gosling. I don't know. I'd like to see a little bit of a.
Well, Gosling has some range though. Like
He does.
it seems like he's really sticking with the sci-fi lane and maybe a little bit more leaning into. I haven't seen Project Hail Mary yet, but seems to be more like drama than comedy. Is there a lot of comedy that he does in it? It didn't really seem like it
Yes.
to me. From
No, it's a lot
okay,
of. I mean, it's a lot of. His character is very, um, like, I mean, you see in the trailer, he says, "I put the not an astronaut. I can't even moonwalk." He's a very
mm-hmm.
self-deprecating kind of, uh,
Okay.
hey, what's going on? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a dramatic role for him. He does hit dramatic beats, obviously, in the movie, but it
Mm-hmm.
still uses his comedic chops. And I could see him doing the same thing in Daniels because obviously Daniels incorporate a lot of absurd comedy into their drama. Uh, whether you're talking about Everything Everywhere or Swiss Army Man, um, you know that makes sense to me. And then of course Marvel has clips. I'm just thinking of the character of Ghost Rider. Like I'd like to see a take on Ghost Rider that's maybe like a little more serious and doesn't incorporate which
Yeah.
the comedic chops of Ryan Gosling are one of his biggest assets, even when he's doing a dramatic role. So it'd be kind of weird if they're doing a very self-serious Ghost Rider character with Ryan Gosling. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it'll be. Marvel is trying to put that sort of sarcastic humor in everything they do now. So I
Yeah.
think that's been a winning formula for them, and they're not going to move away from it, even though maybe they should at this point. Their movies aren't doing so hot these days.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see them switch it up, but yeah, you're no, they're definitely. I think them choosing Ryan Gosling shows that they're going to be leaning into the same sarcastic, kind of witty, quippy, which isn't always bad, and I'm sure Ryan Gosling will be
Yeah,
great. It's just
But he's
What's more
got,
of
I
his
mean,
style?
he's got range. He can do straight drama. He's great in Drive. He's great in First Man. He's done like the indie stuff, like Only God Forgives. So he can do that. But I think the thing at this point is you look at his biggest box office hits, and they are a little bit more in that comedic, quippy vein, and so now he's sort of made a name for himself as that sort of actor, and that's what people are expecting now when they go to see him.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Uh, Moving on to our next topic. Um, we're getting a new Lord of the Rings film. It's not the next Lord of the Rings film that's going to be made, but it will come eventually. And apparently, it's going to be. It's not just going to be written by Stephen Colbert. I saw some articles that kind of made it seem like Stephen Colbert has been chosen to write this movie. No, Stephen Colbert and his son wrote this wrote this movie and brought it to the studio to say, "What do you think about making this movie?" And they greenlit it. Um, and now they're maybe rewriting the story, but they absolutely came up with the project. I have it pulled up on Variety for a little more info. I'm gonna actually read it straight from there if they'll let me off this ad. Let's see. Here we go. Warner Brothers has revealed that Stephen Colbert and his son are developing a brand new Lord of the Rings movie. The announcement came Tuesday night via the studio's various social media accounts. It opened with Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson giving a quick update about the next film in the fantasy franchise, which is Andy Serkis's The Hunt for Gollum. We're going to skip down past that part, though. Um, Jackson then teased his very special partner, who will help develop the next film after The Hunt for Gollum, titled The Lord of the Rings Shadows of the Past. And that partner is none other than the late show host Colbert, who Jackson patched in through a video call. Of course, Colbert is a vocal Tolkien fanatic, and he explained the plot of his movie will come from chapters of The Fellowship of the Ring that didn't make it into Jackson's 2001 adaptation. And Colbert said, um, I found myself reading over and over again the 6 chapters early on in The Fellowship of the Ring that y'all never developed into the first movie back in the day. Oh, wait, maybe that could be its own story that could fit into the larger story. Could we make something that was completely faithful to the books while also being completely faithful to the movies that you guys had already made? So he came up with an idea and discussed it with his son, and they wrote like a draft of the story to pitch to the studio. So that's very different to me than the studio going out and being like, Stephen Colbert loves Lord of the Rings. Let's see if he wants to write a movie for us. This is a huge fan of a franchise who said, I think there's a movie here. And the studio said, sure, yeah, I think that is a good movie. So, um, Brian, what do you think hearing about this, and what do you expect from Stephen Colbert's Lord of the Rings movie?
Mm. I love Stephen Colbert. Absolutely love him. I think this is a terrible idea. I think he is probably too big of a Lord of the Rings fan to see the forest for the trees. I think he's a little probably too invested in those original stories. I mean, the theme is, recycling things. And that quote that you said, extremely faithful to the book while also extremely faithful to the movies is like, what's adventurous or different or original about this? I don't know that there is. And then there's also like, he's not a proven writer. And so, there's no promises that he'll be any good at crafting a story in sort of the traditional ways that we think about a story being crafted. He's just basically so what makes this script different from fan fiction, remains to be seen for me. So I'm pretty down on this as a concept, but there's nothing, you know, I could certainly be proven wrong, and I'd be happy to be proven wrong. But it just sounds like a bad idea to me.
Yeah, and to be clear, apparently Colbert's son is the screenwriter. I don't know if he's been on any big projects. Certainly not a Lord of the Rings sized project before. Um, and hopefully Peter Jackson and some other folks shepherd it along. And I could see a fan like Colbert having a good idea for the basis of a movie that then gets turned into more professional, you know,
Mhm.
okay, that's a good idea. Let's develop it and get it moving along. I don't
Yeah.
know. I hope
Now,
it's
I'd
good.
say it is encouraging that it's based on like those chapters of Lord of the Rings. I'd assume they're the Tom Bombadil and all of that stuff
Yes.
early in the book. That's more encouraging to me than like something based on the Silmarillion that's going to be like really lore heavy and sort of alienate the general public versus just the diehards. Um, but we'll see. Tom Bombadil is also like a very different vibe than the original movies, so I think that's why he was left out originally. So
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I haven't read the Lord of the Rings books to know anything. And I'm not even a big Lord of the Rings film guy, so I really have no particular investment in this. I do like Colbert. I don't know how good of a writer he is. We shall see. We'll get to our last topic because I know you've got somewhere to be soon, and that is our Forgotten Island trailer. This is coming to us from DreamWorks, and we got a few stills from the trailer. It's actually from the makers of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is a great. That gives me a lot of hope right off the bat. So here's a picture of the two friends. I don't know. I'm sure they're named somewhere, but they're not named in the trailer. But these are two best friends that are about to probably part ways. One of them's thinking about going to college somewhere else. And we see here there's a lot of focus in the trailer on this friendship bracelet, which represents some of the memories they've made together. I thought this was a pretty cool element they had, showing this is the first friendship bracelet charm that she gives, which is a bat, and then you see that bat is added to the bracelet, and this it's just using the bracelet as a framing tool, showing all these memories they've made together and what all the charms represent. And then they get sucked into this mysterious island where this strange bird creature is, and it appears this very scary looking monster is lurking at some point. And you can see here that the premise of the island is that the longer you stay there, you start to lose your memories of the time you had together and your friendship, I guess. And here's a good uh, friendship shot just to end the scroller. And yeah, Brian, to me, this kind of my first thought was this looks like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind for
ah,
kids. And I think that's awesome. Like
yeah,
the animation looks stellar to me, and I think Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favorite movies. So if you can kind of repackage that to be about friendship and make one that's family friendly for kids to get into, I'll be there. Hopefully it doesn't stray too juvenile. What did you think of the trailer?
yeah. I thought the trailer looked great. Like you said, the animation style looked really strong, very unique. It has its own style rather than just being sort of the boilerplate animation style. It's been doing something innovative and sort of new visually. So that was really exciting to me. And I thought, the other thing that stood out was sort of an absence of a lot of the humor that you'd expect in a more kid oriented thing to get them excited about the movie. And so if the trailer doesn't have a lot of humor, I think this is going to be a pretty straight drama, which is pretty exciting. Like we used to get those more in sort of kid oriented animated movies, and there's been a whole lot less. You got to insert a joke every 5 to 10 minutes to keep attention or keep things interesting. But like good storytelling can also keep people engaged, and so it's exciting to see that in this context as well. So I'm excited now for the movie. I hadn't heard of it until the trailer came up. I don't keep up with animation all that much, but I think it looks really strong. So I'm excited to see what comes of this.
Yeah, and I think it automatically, from a pole position perspective, jumps into the that's going to be nominated for best animated feature. Whether it can win, it's a different story. But honestly, this is looks more visually ambitious than what Pixar's doing right now. It's kind of more
Oh
in the
yeah.
line of like Sony Pictures Animation with Spider Verse. Um, of course, Pixar has Toy Story 5, which also looks really good, but um, Pixar no longer has this huge gap of gold standard distance on everybody else. It's some of these other animation studios are starting to really come forward and try some more artistic stuff, which is great. I'm very excited about that, and hopefully we can continue to get really good family oriented animated movies that adults can enjoy with their kids rather than just gritting their teeth with their kids. No fart jokes. No fart jokes in this trailer.
Hmm.
Wonderful. Uh, Nothing turns me off an animated movie faster than a fart joke. So I know kids love them. A few in your movie is okay, but if there's two fart jokes in the trailer, there's probably 20 in the movie. So this is this is good. This is good news. Um, Bryan, thank you so much for joining me, man. I think this has been a pretty good show despite the technical issues to start. Uh, we didn't get to do some of the fancier stuff, but that's okay. I think it's great. Just the two of us chatting. Um, we had some good movie news. Guys, we'll be back next week welcoming a new member to the Wasteland Wrap. Tyler Harner will be on with me, and we will be talking about whatever comes up in the next week of movie news. Make sure to subscribe so you can get a notification when we go live. As you can see today, the timing changes a little bit based on uh, technical issues and what we've got going on in the rest of our day jobs because we aren't pros. We are still amateurs here, despite everything. I know it seems like it. Um, and give our channel a like. You'll get Wasteland Wrap. You'll get Pole Position. You'll get the Canon, and soon you'll get the Wasteland After Dark. Maybe premiering very soon. So, um, yeah, Bryan, thank you so much for having for being on the show. I look forward to you coming back around in about a month.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. And that is a wrap on today's show. We will see you guys in the Wasteland.